Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Ready for the event.
United States Naval Academy Alumni Association. This is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is John Schofield and Chris Cervello with the Naval Academy Alumni Association and Foundation. How do you hear us?
Hey, John. Hi, Chris. We got you loud and clear here on the International Space Station. Welcome aboard.
Happy to be aboard with you. Ma'am, I know our time is short here, so I'm going to jump right into it. First of all, it's an honor to be talking to you, but in December, when you were up there, about to watch Navy beat Army in the Army-Navy football game, you learned you were selected as a distinguished graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy. Can you share with us and the alumni watching and listening, the feeling you have, earning this distinction, joining so many incredible alumni of your alma mater, notably, the woman who helped set this up today, Wendy Lawrence?
Yeah, unbelievable question. I was a little bit speechless right now, and I think I was a little bit speechless when I found out. And honestly, I was a little bit speechless when I heard my classmates were putting me in for it. I think that is the biggest honor, is that your peers who you've went through plebe summer with, and then all 4 years at the academy, and then known throughout the fleet, and then bump into each other here and there throughout the last 20, 30 years. Those are your friends. Those are the people who know you better than a lot of people, and I think extremely humbling to be selected by my peers, first of all, and then second of all, just to get the honor itself, to be a distinguished grad. It's overwhelming and just incredible. I look at the people who have come before me, of course, just at the Naval Academy in general, but then the people who are the distinguished grads, and honestly, you feel like I don't know if I deserve this, but I am so honored and so humbled to be amongst that group. And I saw the names recently on an email that went out, and it's, like I said, just extremely humbling, but also, just also amazing and great that we have such amazing and wonderful people who have graduated from the Naval Academy that we can be associated with.
Ma'am, I want to follow up and ask about your time at the Naval Academy and how the lessons that you learned there have prepared you for time in space. Much has been made about the adversity that you and your fellow astronaut are facing in terms of dealing with a little bit of uncertainty. I mean, I'm sure it's not the first time in your career that you've had to adapt and overcome, but what lessons from Annapolis have helped you in that adaptation and dealing with things that you didn't expect while up on the space station?
Yeah, that's a great question. Things are unpredictable. They're unpredictable in the fleet as well, or any military service. And so you just have to, like you said, be adaptable and go with the flow. But honor, courage, commitment, the standard baseline from what we learned at the Naval Academy, and how we conduct ourselves, and just ready to go with the flow and be okay with that and make the best of every situation, I think are some of the things, the foundation, like I said, that I learned from the Academy, as well as playing sports at the Academy. Like, you've got to just adapt and be ready to take the situation where it's going to take you. I've also learned in my career, I was struggled a little bit academically at the Naval Academy also, I will say that too, and so sometimes you need to pivot, right, and just make the best of the situation. And my career was the same way. There were things that I thought that I wanted to do or accomplish. The road didn't take me there, and I needed to turn and do something else, and unbeknownst to me, that opens a lot of doors. And so I think, the lessons learned of just being able to be resilient through those types of activities where maybe one would say it's failure, but you just take your put your head up and take a step forward and continue on, you might find new opportunities. So I think this was the same thing, being here on the space station. You know, what a great mission to be on a test flight of the first spacecraft first flight of Starliner, but then be here on the space station gave us opportunities to, you know, talk to a lot of people about test and talk to a lot of people about how to test the next generation of spacecraft as we leave low Earth orbit. So, you know, it's a great opportunity if you look at it that way, and, you know, just press on. And I think the Naval Academy prepared me for that.
Can we talk about some of the practical, you know, adaptation that you've had to do, planning for a short period and then it going a little bit longer? I saw a story a couple weeks ago that talked about, you know, there may be a longer period of, you know, getting used to exercising on Earth again. I mean, what have you had to do different over this longer period that maybe you hadn't planned for?
You know, I will say, you know, and Butch brings this up a lot, you know, we are prepared anyway, one way or the other. And we of course, planned on being a short flight and a test flight. If test flight's going to lead to some new discovery, so we had an idea that it might be a little bit longer than as advertised, but this was a little bit more longer than that. But just in the lead up to our flight, we wanted to make sure we were prepared to live here on the space station, brought all of our spacewalking equipment with us, made sure that we were ready to go for robotics, made sure we had all of the station systems under our belt and ready to go. So preparedness and commitment, I think, are the you know, two mainstays of our time up here, things that, you know, we had to get used to. You know, as the summer progressed and we understood more and more about the, you know, the difficulty of the decision whether or not we would or would not come home on Starliner, I think your mind sort of shifts, right? It's sort of like a deployment where you think you're going to come home and something happens in the world and you know, your ship takes a right turn rather than a left turn to head back home. You just have to have that mind shift and understand that, hey, you know, with the skills that I have, I prepared as best as I could. I'm ready to ask questions, ready to learn some more, and then I can take on this new role as a long-duration crew member here on the International Space Station. And it was an honor to become the, you know, the station commander. I'd been up here before, but then, you know, integrating our crew, which I had not really worked with before, has been really a joy and a pleasure to be working with all these people. And I think really it's the people that make it the most important and make it the best.
Well, ma'am, I'll put you in a time machine now and go back about 10 years when I was the public affairs officer for Vice Admiral Carter, and we're coming down to Houston for the Naval Academy Houston Cougars football game, and you gave us a tour of Johnson Space Center. And on that trip was Vice Admiral Carter's flag aide, Lieutenant Caleb Barron. And I'll remember with vivid detail being in the Johnson Space Center with you as you struck up a conversation with Lieutenant Barron about becoming an astronaut. And now look where Lieutenant Caleb Barron, or now probably Lieutenant Commander Caleb Barron, is. You know, I watched your leadership and mentorship, you know, on display that day, and look what it's done. Talk to me a little bit about what being a leader and being a mentor means to you. And along the lines of what Chris asked you before, how did the Naval Academy prepare you for a lifetime of leadership?
Well, you know, I think that's our goal, right? So you want to, you know, finish out or, you know, maintain your career and finish out your career, making sure that someone's going to take, you know, fill your shoes and do everything that they can do and do it even better than you did, right? So I think that's the main goal. So it's super cool to actually interact with junior officers in Kayla at the time, Nicole Mann, Jack Hathaway, who's in the astronaut office right now. You know, it's really awesome to see them flourish and them grow and, you know, just sort of try to be a good role model. So I think that is, you know, really the way that I try to conduct myself. You know, when I was at the Naval Academy, women weren't in combat at that time, and I was like, okay, well, you know, there's still roles for us to play and roles for us to do, supportive roles or whatever, to, you know, do the best that we can. And I think that sort of, that I took that, you know, that feeling and that idea with me as I went into the fleet. Hey, you know, there was only 2 women in my first helicopter squadron, and you know, you're sort of setting the pace, setting the, you know, the how everything's going to be in the future. So you just got to do the best you can, and know others are going to come behind you, and you want to make sure that your shoes were good shoes to fill when they have that opportunity. So, and also as a, just as a leader from the Naval Academy, I think one of my most precious memories was being a summer squad leader and having, those plebes all, nervous and ready to go, or it's not necessarily ready, but nervous as the brigade was coming back at the end of the summer. And I took them all on a jog. I said, okay, let's go. We're going to go do a run. And I don't know if it's legal nowadays, but I said, you're going to follow me everywhere? And they're like, yes, ma'am, And I jumped off the seawall into the Severn River, and they all jumped in after me. I didn't think about like, oh gosh, well, we're in the Navy, we should all be able to swim, so it was okay. But that's the type of thing. You're working for the people, the people who are working with you and for you. I think that's, like I mentioned, the most important thing. And I think when I was on my disassociated sea tour, one of the biggest lessons learned that I got is, you really need to pay attention to a little bit more attention to the people that work for you than the people that you work for. You got to take care of your troopers, and then they'll take care of you.
So can you talk to me a little bit, ma'am, about like the foundations of that? Like the standard question on this podcast was, what made you want to go to the Naval Academy? But, from starting in Cleveland, growing up in Massachusetts, did you always have this kind of fire that led you to where you are today? And from where did this fire come? Was it, inspired and imbued upon you by your parents? Was it teachers? Was it, friends? How did you become, someone who got on this path?
It's a good question. There's a lot that goes into anybody, right? Not just me, but everybody is, shaped by a lot of things. But I think you hit the nail on the head a little bit about my parents, right? My father came over, immigrated to the United States from India, and really had nothing, and met my mom, who was working as an X-ray technician in Cleveland. My father had just finished medical school and was doing his residency, and I look at what they did as a young couple and leaving their home country. My father, for example, and I think to myself, well, that's really those are really brave things. The things that I've done, I seems to pale in comparison. But at the same time, they were great role models to me in encouraging me and my brother and my sister to take chances. You don't have to stick with the status quo. Just get out there and do what you need to do and make yourself successful. All three of us were competitive swimmers, and I think you get a lot of grit when you're in the pool looking at the black line back and forth for hours on end. And I think being a competitive swimmer also shaped me insofar as just being competitive. And also my swim team was really a team sport. I mean, you never went out there just to win for yourself. You went out there to get points for your team. And I think those things, the work ethic, just getting out there and trying stuff and not being afraid to fail. And then, the third thing that I, just mentioned, just being determined. I think those all in the teamwork all shaped me. And I think maybe, like you said, got the fire within of just get out there and do it.
Ma'am, we tend to ask our guests about their feelings about the Naval Academy as their time away from Annapolis has grown. For me, I couldn't wait to get out of Annapolis. I was ready to get to the fleet. I didn't think much about it. But as I've been further away, I've had time to think about it, and those feelings have changed. Do you have a similar continuum as you've progressed in your career and as that time has, grown more and more?
Oh, absolutely. I think all of us who go there just can't wait to get out the door, right? Get up that hill. We don't have to talk about what it's called, but get out that hill and see the Naval Academy in the rearview mirror as you're heading toward BWI or wherever you're going, right? So, yeah, I had no intention of really coming back. I love Annapolis. Town is a lot of fun, and when I had the opportunity, and when I was stationed at Pax River, and we had the opportunity to come up to Annapolis and go out to dinner there, and just take a walk through the yard and maybe walk on the grass a little bit. that started to sort of turn, your attitude a little bit about, hey, this is a really awesome place to go. And I recognized it when I was there too. I just really wanted to get away from there for a little bit, just like everybody else. But, that school gave me opportunities and to see, so much of the world and different people and how they do stuff. Schools, airborne school, dive school, flight school. I mean, oh my gosh, those opportunities are there if you're for the taking for anybody. And I really look back and I'm very thankful for all of that, as well as my education there, as well as the teamwork, the camaraderie, the foundation of everything that school gives you, courage, honor, commitment, and really taking all of that to heart made me want to come back more and more. So after around the 10-year mark, then it became a normal thing to go back and be really excited about coming back and going to tailgaters and going to football games and talking to the swim team, talking to the mids about career paths that, me and my husband have had and lucky to have had and then can share with them. I can give you a funny story if you're ready for it.
We're ready.
All right, so one time my husband and I came back to Annapolis, had dinner, went for a walk on the yard, and we walked right in front of Bancroft Hall when restriction was going on. And, we were sort of peering in there like, oh, man, I remember being on restriction. And he was like, he was a goody two-shoes. He wasn't. I was. And he's like, well, let's go in and talk to them. I'm like, oh, no, you can't do that. They're on restriction. He's like, come on. So we went in and talked to the officer of the deck and said, hey, can we chat with the restrictees? And they got out of formation and we were able to just hang out and talk to them about careers and life outside of the Naval Academy, which was a lot of fun, actually. It's nice to get them out of restriction muster.
Everybody likes that. Everybody likes that break in routine.
Chris Cervello would have no idea what it's like to be on restriction, not at all. But, ma'am, I want to get to your class. I'm not going to ask you who would win, a battle of one-on-one, with you and David Robinson, or, whether a certain member of your class would be better in space than you. But what, we always come down to these stratifications of how people remember their time at the Naval Academy, whether it was in their company or their sport, or a particularly shared interest group that they were in. Talk to us about what was special about your class and how your class remembers your time there, other than the great basketball, of course.
Yeah, basketball was awesome. Football was awesome for the most part. Nat McCallum was in I was in Nat McCallum's company when I was a plebe. So, sports were everywhere and anywhere. I think we beat Army when I was a plebe as a swimmer, so that was awesome. But what defines 87? 87 is just a great class. Maybe it's because I'm not going to say 87 minus 3 had anything to do with it, but that class was also a great leadership class for us and has been our little rivalry for quite some time. But I think 87 has grit. We were scrambled. I think we were the first one in a long time to be scrambled after our plebe year, and it felt like we just were able to get through a lot. I think everybody feels like that with their class, but 87 seemed to stick together really well. And I will just talk about quickly, the women in our class too. I didn't know all of them while I was going through the academy. Got to meet a bunch afterwards, and just amazing people that have really done amazing things. And I think our class. The guys in our class embraced the ladies in our class and really pumped us up and made us a more unified class. So I am very thankful for that as well. There's a lot that's great with 87. When we get together at tailgaters and see each other, it's, like everybody, it's like you haven't missed a beat with anybody. And even though there's different, groups of people, sports or whatever, people all seem to get right back together again and not worry about any of those divisions that potentially were there a long time ago. I'm not going to say how many years ago, but a long time ago. So I don't know. 87 is a pretty cool class. I'm really honored to be part of that.
Well, ma'am, I know that I joined the class of 87, your fellow distinguished graduates and all of the alumni. and saying how proud we are of you, how much we're watching you, and how thankful we are for you joining us for this sliver of time. I know you're so busy up there. Thank you so much. As we go out, I'll just tell you that we're moving Shipmate magazine from the regular paper version it is now to a more digitized version. So you can read Shipmate down here or up there. So we're going to put out a video, advertising that. So, ma'am, if you can you just say Shipmate magazine? I can get it down there or up here.
Shipmate magazine. I can get it on Earth or up in space. It's out of this world. Thank you, John. Thank you, Chris, for this opportunity. Thank you to the Naval Academy. Thank you, class of '87. You guys rock. And I can't wait to see you guys this summer.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event.
Thank you to all participants with the U.S. Navy Naval Academy Alumni Association station. We are now resuming operational audio communications.